All right, it's time to pick books for the month of December, and I've got a game plan this month. We'll see whether or not it works out, but I feel like it should achieve what I'm hoping. Basically, it's the end of the year. I'm hoping to clear out as many of the sort of unfinished projects and goals and whatever it is that you want to say that I have. And per usual, I'm going to be playing my unicorn game to pick 3,000 pages worth of reading. However, all of that reading this month is going to come from my 24 and 24 list, my 10 before the end list, the books that are at risk of being unhauled, books that I've started and haven't finished, because yes, I have a few of those. I think those are the majority of the categories, and you can see them all on the spinner wheel that I will be using. To play this game, I am basically going to choose a letter from this deck of letter cards, and that is the letter that the title of the book needs to start with. I will then spin the wheel, and the prompt on the wheel needs to go together with the letter card to help me choose a book, and hopefully it'll be clearer as we go along. I decided not to do a video on how to play my unicorn game until the new year when it will be set for the year. So you'll have to watch for that, but watch this for now and hopefully you'll figure it out. So the other thing you will note is that there are sort of two upgrades that I have made for this month. One is that there is a prompt on the wheel that says random, and that means that I am going to pick a random prompt out of here. This is not related to the categories, but are generally fairly general enough prompts that they should help me pick from the categories of books I'm trying to read. The other thing that I have done is based on these lists that I have created, I know what all the books are that I could potentially choose from, and I've actually put those in the unicorn. So the unicorn just has all white paper in it this month, except for this one yellow one that's trying to hide out. And so I will only be choosing books at random that are from one of these lists if I get a unicorn pick. So let me go ahead and start playing the game. So if you haven't seen me play this before, hopefully it'll make sense as we go along. And so let's see what the first book is going to be. It's going to start with the letter F. Okay, I think I have a couple of books that start with the letter F, so that will be interesting for sure. Let me spin the wheel. Okay, so I need to find a book that is off my 24 and 24 list. I don't think I've read the one for the letter F, so let's go check that out. Okay, book number one needed to be a book whose title starts with the letter F, and it is off my list of 24 books that I would like to read in 2024. So obviously we're in the last month of 2024, so I was very motivated to try and finish the books off that list, and I have not read the book that starts with the letter F off that list, and that book was Paul Auster's 4321. Anyway, this is a book that I've really been anticipating because the premise of it really fascinates me. And I'll just read a short description off the back so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. On March 3rd in 1947, Archibald Isaac Ferguson, the one and only child of Stanley and Rose Ferguson, is born. From that single beginning, Ferguson's life will take four simultaneous and independent fictional paths. Four Fergusons made from the same genetic material, four boys who are the same boy will go on to lead four parallel and entirely different lives. I'm excited to get this book on here, but for my first book, it's a long one. This is 970 pages. And the other concern that I kind of have about this book is I have read a short story now by Paul Auster, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I have been told, however, by somebody who left a comment, and thank you for doing so, that Paul Auster's works when he wrote the short story that I read in the New York trilogy was much earlier in his writing career, and that his writing does kind of change later in his career. So I'm hopeful that I will still enjoy this book. Either way, I did mention in the month of November that I was hoping to get to this book sooner than later so that I could either read it or just realize it's not for me and unhaul it. So I guess wish granted. All right, my second book pick needs to start with the letter M. Okay, I think I have quite a few on this list that are with M, so I could get pretty much on here and have it not be a unicorn pick. Well, so much for that idea. I don't know that I have any that are unfinished that start with the letter M. Of course, it couldn't make it easy for me. My second book pick needed to be a book whose title starts with the letter M and is something that I have not finished. And this was not the book that jumped into my mind when I got this combination of prompts, but it couldn't have worked out more perfectly. And the book I chose is The Mysteries of Paris. So I have been buddy reading this with Stormy since I don't even know when, maybe February of this year. It is a huge, massive book, just under 1,300 pages. And we were planning slash hoping to just happen to finish it by the end of the year. And that is the goal, and it's going to happen. And it's helpful that it's now on my TBR. To finish The Mysteries of Paris, all we have is the last book in here, as well as the epilogue, and it's just 100 pages. And we've been approaching it by just reading one chapter a day, and that's worked out really well. The chapters are kind of short, so it's just kind of a little extra reading something during the day. That's my plan of attack for this. I'm going to go for it, and I am looking forward to it. The next book will start with the letter B. Oh, I know which one I don't want this to be. There is one book on this list I really don't want to read. I don't know whether or not this will be that book, but I need to pick from the letter B in this selection of books the book that has been on my TBR list, my to be read list, the longest. My next book pick needed to be a book whose title starts with the letter B and is a TBR vet. So basically, the book, if I had a choice, that I have owned the longest. And so for the letter B, I had two books to choose between. And honestly, I can't truly remember which one I've had the longest, but I'm pretty sure it's this one. And that would be Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope. This is the second book in his Barsetshire series. The two names for this one always confuse me, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. I read The Warden last year and have been waiting pretty much all year for this to come up in my TBR game or just to find the time to squeeze it in. So I guess now's the time, squeezing it in literally before the end of the year. I am really looking forward to getting back to this community. I have heard a lot of really good things about Anthony Trollope. Interestingly enough, most people don't like The Warden, and some will even tell you to start the series with this book. I did start it with The Warden because that's the first book in the series, and I actually really enjoyed The Warden. So I have high hopes for Barchester Towers because people say they like this one even better. So I'm thinking that I should like it better or even more than I did The Warden. So that's a good thing. Barchester Towers is 424 pages long, so I feel like this pile is stacking up pretty quickly, and I'm going to be hitting that 3,000 page mark very fast. The next book needs to be a book whose title starts with the letter H. So we'll do it that way for you. Okay, let me spin the wheel. A random book. Okay, what are the chances that my random prompt will match a book off the list? I don't know. Let's find out. Here's the random bag. Let's see. Don't you love how this is like a prompt telling me to pick another prompt? In this case, the prompt will be, what does that say? Oh, North America. So it needs to be a book that fits all of these prompts. The letter H, North America. Let's go check it out. Okay, my next pick was for the letter H, and I got to pick from my random bag prompt. And that bag is just full of like just random prompts that could fit any book. And I think the intention is partially to just allow me a little more selection or choice in choosing the books. However, my list that I'm choosing from or working from this month is very small. So the chances that my H would match my random prompt is pretty slim to none. But the prompt that I ended up choosing from the bag is for North America. So it needs to be a book that is set in North America or written by a North American author. Ironically, the only book off that stack that I have that starts with the letter H is Hopscotch, which, if I recall correctly, is a Brazilian novel and is set in Brazil. Let me double check that because now that I think about it, I'm not actually sure where it's set. Okay, wow. How many things can you get wrong at one description? So the book is written by an Argentinian author and is set in Paris. So everything I just said, completely ignore. I didn't pull the book because I knew either way. I was fairly confident that it was not set in North America or nor written by a North American author, and I was right on that part at least. Anyway, that means that this is going to be a unicorn pick. So let's see what book my unicorn is randomly going to give me. It's going to be interesting because it could actually end up still giving me Hopscotch. Okay. Let's see what this book is. Okay, Tarrant LeBlanc. I almost think I would have rather had hopscotch. Let me go get this book. Okay, so here it is, Tarrant Blanc, or The White Tyrant is what it is. And this was a book that was written in the 1490s and is set in the time of knighthood. It is written by a Spanish author and is actually considered in Don Quixote to be one of the best books in the world, which I don't know, kind of concerns me about what kind of topic it's going to be given Don Quixote and the types of books that he liked, but it should be fun. On the back here, it says Body Action Packed Adventures of the Night Warrior, an epic from another time, universally hailed as a must read for today, a superhero from the days of knighthood. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I love this edition of it. That's like, what is this? Like a 70s romance novel and stuff? This reminds me of Tour Classics, but it's not one. But I mean, come on. The imagery here is just, she looks like she's hugging a statue. You see that guy? Like, could he be more stiff? Anyway, I am really looking forward to this in theory. Like, I know I've now said both, but what it is I like the concept and premise of this book. I'm not sure about the translation of it and how well it's going to read. Like, if it reads like a book from the 1490s in terms of like non-modernized language, it could be kind of a rough read. So I may at some point see if I can get a more modernized language edition of this book. But this is also chunky in this mass market paperback. It is 723 pages. So, like I said, adding up the page count very quickly, but let's keep going. Okay, the next book prompt is going to be, or title, I guess, starts with you. Okay, there are some. Oh gosh, I can already tell you pretty sure none of them are part of a series. Why did I decide to do it this way? Next, I needed a book whose title starts with the letter U and is a series that I either want to continue or finish. So, not even a series that I wanted to start, because again, it's the end of the year. I'm trying to finish things off. However, I don't have any books whose either title or the name of the series starts with U. I'm sure, I don't even think I have one in general, let alone one that I've started or am about to finish. So, it's another unicorn pick. Again, I guess I'm kind of happy that for this month, I only have in here books that fit one of the categories that's on my wheel. I probably should have gone over what those categories were for you, but I didn't. All right, let's see what the unicorn picked. Oh, The Souls of Black Folk. Okay, so this is a book that is, interestingly enough, one of the books that I started earlier this year and have not finished. Let me go get it. Okay, so The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. This is a collection of essays that Du Bois wrote just talking about the experience and the inner life of Black people at the time. And this was a book that I started earlier this year. And then I realized because of the way the essays were, and they were all on a similar theme, but not super closely connected, I realized that this wasn't a book that I just wanted to read straight through, and that I was definitely going to want to read the essays like one at a time here and there. So I will continue to do that. I made it to page 66. So I only have 123 pages of this book left to read, and it's just the last few essays. There are 8 essays in here left for me to read. So I guess that would mean I would need to read 2 essays a week to finish this book by the end of the month. So that seems pretty doable, and that's probably how I will approach it. Okay, the next book's title needs to start with the letter H again. And the letters do repeat in here because clearly this is a stack of 52 cards or more than that, and there's only 26 letters in the alphabet. All right, let's see what the wheel chooses this time. Okay, At Risk of Being Uncalled, sure. A book whose title starts with the letter H and is at risk of being unhauled. Again, the only book I have on this list that starts with the letter H is Hopscotch, And I think that was just a TBR vet that I used to fill in that spot. So it's going to be a unicorn pick. I guess I should have realized that as soon as I picked the letter H, but it didn't occur to me. All right. Let's see what this one will give me. Oh, this was not one that I was thinking. Okay, this goes back to unfinished series. So, Palace of Desire. Let me go grab the book. Okay. Palace of Desire is part of the Cairo trilogy that I started last year, as in the summer of 2023. Chance came up for me to read the second book, and I decided that I just didn't want to do it. I either didn't like the edition, or maybe it was audiobook, or whatever it was. And I decided to wait until I had my edition back. In addition to that, though, in starting it, I realized that the feel and the tone of the second book is very different from the first book. And I had a couple of people in the comments confirm that. And so it'll be interesting to see how I really feel going into this second book. Because even the first book took a little bit of adjusting to, because the protagonist in the first book is not a likable character. And in the second book, I believe we get more of the story of his children's lives, because it's basically following the lives of this one family, sort of generationally to an extent, in 1920s Egypt. So I am looking forward to getting back to this series. I'm kind of glad it's on here for the end of the year, but because of the experience that I had earlier this year in trying the second one, I'm a little more trepidatious about it than I otherwise would have been. Uh, Either way, Palace of Desire is 448 pages, so doesn't get me to the 3,000 pages yet, but definitely adds another good sized book onto the list. Book number 7 is going to be, or start with X, Y, or Z. We do have at least one book for each of these categories or letters, so let's see if it matches the wheel. Okay, the book off my 10 before the end list, and I do have one that fits in that. I think I might even have two, but I think I know what I'm going to pick. Okay, so a book whose title starts with the letter X, Y, or Z and is on my 10 before the end list. I was so excited when I saw this come up, because I had just looked at that list recently, and so I knew what the book was, and it's Zeno's Conscience. I cannot wait. This may very well be the first book I read this month. This is by Italo Savevo, and it just explores the life and mind of a gentleman in Italy named Zeno. And he is writing in his diary at the request of his psychologist, who has decided that it would help him if he just wrote about his early life up to what happened now, so that he can kind of see if he can figure out what led him to this point. I don't know what that point is, but I'm looking forward to finding out. This is a book that I started to listen to on audio as I was driving across states during my move this summer. But the narrator's voice was just so soothing that it was just putting me to sleep. Not because it was boring. I was actually like laughing at some of the things that that he was saying. But yeah, it was just an audiobook that was not going to work for me as part of a drive. In general, there were things that I felt like I was missing because I was listening to it on audiobook. And so I definitely wanted to buy and get a physical copy of this book. I was super excited when I arrived in my new hometown to find a copy of this book at a local bookstore so that I could pick it up right away. And I'm glad I'm going to get to read it before the end of the year. In fact, in some ways, I think this will be a really fun winter read. Not because that's at all related to anything that he's talking about, but I don't know. This is just definitely the type of book you cozy up with and just enjoy the ride. Zeno's Conscience is 437 pages long, and so that brings me to over 3,000 pages. So, super excited about that. I've got the books. I'm happy because I feel like these are all the books that I wanted to fit in before the end of the year. Well, that's a lie. They're not all the books that I wanted to fit in before the end of the year, but there are a lot of the books that I was trying to fit in before the end of the year. And I'll link in the description box below all the different book lists that I was working off of to come up with a list of books to focus on for this month. I've done videos on all of them in terms of the books that are at risk of being unhauled, my 24 and 24 reads, and that kind of thing. I think the only one that I didn't do is books that were unfinished or part of the series. And that's fine. There weren't a lot of them, but those are the things that came together in this that went into the unicorn. I'm probably going to leave all those other books in the unicorn and just mix in some of the other colored pages for January, but we'll see. There will be a whole new spinner wheel for that, I'm sure. So let me get the stack of books that I've been piling up over here and show you all of them together. Okay, and here they all are. These are all the books that I am hoping to finish reading before the year is out. It includes The Mysteries of Paris, which is a book that I need to finish. 4321, which was an anticipated read for me. Zeno's Conscience, which was one of the 10 books that I wanted to read before the end of the year. The Cairo trilogy, Palace of Desires, which is a series that I'm trying to continue. The Souls of Black Folk, which is another book that I am trying to finish before the year is over. Barchester Towers is another series I'm trying to continue. And Tarant LeBlanc is a book that I want to try reading and see if I enjoy or just simply unhaul it. And that is it for me. I will put up on the screen the total number of pages that I will need to read this month to finish this stack, as well as about how many pages I would need to read per day to finish it. And it's pretty close to 100. So I feel like, especially with Christmas break and stuff, that this should be pretty doable. Lots of cozy reading is in my future. Let me know in the description box below what you will be reading in the month of December, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.